What's going on, everyone? So, according to Chris McGee, the Los Angeles Lakers may have interest in Luke Kornet as well as Trey Jones. So one center, one point guard, preferably a backup point guard. But according to him, heard the Lakers having interest in Luke Kornet and expressed interest in Trey Jones as a backup point guard. I like Trey Jones. He'd be a nice backup point guard. I've always kind of been intrigued by his game as a reserve. So, again, two guys that could fill needs for the Lakers. One, obviously, as a more likely than a backup center, right? Luke Kornet, I kind of look at as just like a backup. Could you use him as your starter? Sure, but I'd prefer a more proven starting center, and then having Luke Kornet kind of be a backup. We'll dive into Luke Kornet here in a moment, and then Trey Jones. Brother of Tyus Jones, was on the Spurs, went to Chicago in that trade. But I like Trey Jones as a backup point guard. And again, we'll go over him here briefly in a moment. But he's good as that like facilitating point guard, right? The reason Gabe Vincent makes sense is because of his ability to be that kind of 3-and-D style point guard, right? Same thing with like a Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is good at being that, initiator, right? Being that orchestrator, right? Where his brother Trey isn't as good as Tyus, in my opinion, particularly off ball, moving without the basketball. It's like that. Like, yeah, he could be that kind of 3-and-D style guard, but how much are you going to need his playmaking ability, right? Because that would be the whole idea, is that he come in, be that kind of facilitator off the bench that could, play a small role. But if you're keeping Austin Reeves, which I imagine the Lakers are, you'll have Reeves, Luka, and LeBron James as your primary ball handlers, as the three guys that are, facilitating, orchestrating the offense. Like a guy like Gabe Vincent, right, makes sense because he can bring up the ball, initiate, get the ball to Luka, get the ball to Austin Reeves, get the ball to LeBron James, and then go play off ball, right? That's not really Trey Jones's game. Like, yeah, he can do it, but he's best in kind of like the Chris Paul type role, right? Not anywhere near Chris Paul, but you get the point, right? Like kind of that, surveying, take it what the defense gives you, kind of hitting shooters and running the pick and roll, right? Now, could do some half court sets with him and stuff, but it's just, to me, you're probably more likely than not always going to have Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves on the court, if not two at a time, at all times on the basketball court. Maybe at times you have just one, but more likely than not, you're going to have, one to two of those guys. So I don't really think a point guard is necessary, right? Even Chris Paul. Supposedly the Lakers are interested in Chris Paul. Supposedly Chris Paul, he said himself, he wants to, finish in LA ideally. It doesn't necessarily mean the Lakers. It could be the Clippers too. Like Chris Paul, sure, again, kind of play the Rondo role, right? Kind of be that facilitator and playmaker. But if you keep Austin Reeves, Chris Paul doesn't really make sense. I talked about it in that video, right? Because it's like Chris Paul is best as that playmaking point guard, right? To be the guy that's facilitating, unless you're just moving Austin Reeves off ball full time, but then that takes away what makes Austin Reeves great, right? Like, so now if you were to trade Austin Reeves, then yeah, Chris Paul, Tyus Jones, or Trey Jones, guys like that make more sense because it gives you a guy that can, again, fill in that playmaking role. You're likely turning Austin Reeves into hopefully some 3-and-D wings. So he's initiating the offense, kicking it, and then when he is alongside Luka and LeBron, kind of being that initiator and playing off ball and whatnot. But to go get a point guard that's just going to essentially just be an initiator and play off ball the whole time, I'd rather go a different route. That's just me personally. But, well, I guess let's get into Trey Jones first because I'm already talking about my complaints with him. Now, look, he's 25 years old. He's still very young. There's still plenty of upside and potential. He won't be 26 till January, so basically midway through next season. So, he is a guy that is a young player, an asset. He's coming off of a season in which he averaged 7 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Right? Problem is, he's 6'1", 6'2", 185 pounds. So, for 6'2", he's got some decent weight behind him. But, I would prefer bigger. If you're going to go the initiating guard route, you might as well just keep Gabe Vincent, right? Gabe Vincent, or go get somebody similar, right? Like Gabe Vincent at least is 6'3", right? So he's at least got a couple inches on him and can be that defense, be that kind of pest. But you look at last season, 46 games between the Spurs and the Bulls. In that 46 games, averaged 19.7 minutes per game. He only started in 9 of those games, and all 9 were with Chicago. Right, so he started in actually half of Chicago's games. Now, on the year, he shot 53.8% from the floor. He did shoot 39.6% from three-point range, but on one attempt, right? Like, this guy isn't like a major volume. He's a career 31.1% three-point shooter. The most attempts he's taken in his career were the 2 previous years to last, in which he averaged basically 2.5 attempts in both of those seasons. One season he shot 28.5%. The other season he shot 33.5%. Right? Like, again, you look at a guy like Tyus Jones, 38 to 40%. Right? Like, that makes more sense. He could be that initiator when you need him to be. Outside of that, he doesn't really give you the defense, but he can be that off-ball guy. So I kind of feel the same way about Trey Jones, right? Like, he's not. If he was like elite defensively, right? Like absolute clamps, right? Like, it's like, okay, sure, right? Whatever he's giving you offensively, he can initiate the offense. He can, in a pinch if you need him to, over an 82-game season, sure, he'd be solid, but can knock down the 3 ball at like 40% or, at 33%, right? And then be that point, but he could be that just relentless point of attack guard. Again, sure, okay. But that's not his game, right? So I just don't really buy it. Now, you look at his time with Chicago because he had more of an expanded role. With San Antonio, he was only averaging 16 minutes per game, where with Chicago, he was averaging 25. So in 25 minutes per game, he was getting 8.1 attempts. He shot 57.2% from the floor. He did shoot 50% from three-point range with Chicago. Keep in mind, though, very small sample size and very small amounts, 1.2 attempts per game. 2-point range, 6.8 attempts, 58.5%. He had an EFG of 61% with the Chicago Bulls. Free throw shooting, he is a career 84% guy. He shot 88.2% on 2 attempts for Chicago. Averaged 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, half a block, and then 11.5 points per game. You look at the time in San Antonio, he was half a steal, half a block, right? But he also was playing, 10 fewer minutes, right? So, again, is this a guy that, how many minutes are you playing him one, right? Like, yeah, if he shot, not obviously 50% from three-point range is a little excessive. You're probably not looking for him to shoot that. But, I mean, if he could shoot 40% from 3 and get you a steal a game and play some defense, like, he's better defensively than Tyus is, but he's not this, he's not this, absolute clamp defender. More often than not, he's undersized, especially against the guards in the West. It's not my favorite option. Now, moving on to Luke Kornet. Now, he makes a lot of sense. I really like the idea of Luke Kornet coming in. Again, I would prefer him as a backup more than your starter. He's 29. He'll be 30 literally tomorrow. Depending on when you watch this, he's already turned, a month from now, July. Sorry, I read that wrong. We're in June, July 15th. So a month from now. So we're good either way. But so he'll be 30 going into next season is the point, right? So he's still young enough to where you could have him for a couple seasons, and even he's not a guy that I see just falling off a cliff at age 32. You know what I mean? So he's a guy he signed for 2-3 years. I think he'd be in good shape. Right? Really boils down to cost though. How much would it cost you to sign Luke Kornet? But you look at last season, 73 games played, 16 games started, 18.6 minutes per game. Perfect in a backup role. You're looking in the 15 to 20 minute range. 18.6 minutes per game, shot 66.8% from the floor, not shooting threes. 2-point range, 67.5% on 3.8 attempts, EFG of 66.8%, and then from the free throw line, shot 70% on 1.3 attempts. He is a career 77% free throw shooter. Doesn't take a lot of attempts, though. He's only a career 0.8 free throw attempt guy. Rebounds, 5 rebounds, including 2.6 offensive rebounds. He had basically the same number of offensive rebounds as he did defensive. 2.6 offensive, 2.7 defensive, 5.3 total, 1.6 assists, half a steal, a block, a full block per game, and then 6 points. So he's basically a 6-and-6 guy with 2 assists, half a steal, and a block per game. If you look at his per 36 numbers, again, per 36 doesn't give you the whole idea, but what could he potentially look like with more minutes? in a sort of starter role. He'd be a 12-10 guy with 3 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks per game. That would be fantastic. I just don't know if he would ever actually be that, right? Like, there's guys, I've talked about like Clint Capella before and talked about his per 36. And you look at his per 36 numbers and it's like 15 and 14 with like 2 blocks, a steal and, an assist, right? And it's like, you look at a guy like him and it's like, man, that's pretty hefty, right? But it's like, no, he's literally had multiple years, including a season like 2 years ago, in which he averaged that exact stat line, right? Like, there's some guys that you look at their per 36 and it's like, yeah, no, that is their numbers when they play, full-time starter minutes. And then you look at guys where it's like, problem is that Luke Kornet has never been that primary starter, right? For his career, he's been a backup. He has built a career as a backup big. I mean, literally from his time, at 22 as a rookie for the Knicks, right? He only started in 1 game, then 18 games, right? The most games he has ever started in a season are 18. And that was his second season in the league with the Knicks. For his career, he's a 15-minute-a-game guy, right? He averages, basically, he's built a career as a backup. So again, him in a backup role, love it. Him as your starter, absolutely not, right? Because to take a guy that has been a career backup and one of the better backups, right? I mean, he's given you great production in that time. To turn him into, I just don't think makes a lot of sense. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? If you have any thoughts, do you like the idea of Luke Kornet and Trey Jones? Do you like the idea of just Luke Kornet? Do you like the idea of just Trey Jones? Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.